welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're stepping directly into what we call the logic gap to fundamentally rethink self-control, and we're going to entirely strip away all those flashy illusions of modern hustle culture. We're breaking down the exact, under-the-hood mechanics of how to build a level of self-control that literally makes success look effortless to everyone else. Okay, let's just dive right in, and I want to ask you a really direct question. Are you currently waiting for a spark of motivation to strike? You know what I mean? Are you holding out for that sudden rush of energy or that quick dopamine hit to finally get started on those big goals of yours? Be totally honest with yourself here. Because look, if you're waiting to feel ready, you are falling into a massive psychological trap that keeps most people permanently stuck. All right, let's look at number one, the myth of hype, and exactly why loud discipline fails. We really need to dismantle this widely held but completely false belief about what hard work actually looks like. You probably picture the 4 a.m. alarms, the intense screaming gym sessions, the constant public updates. But look at the stark contrast here. Loud hustle relies entirely on hype. It's built on showing off, and it fundamentally craves dopamine, that chemical hit we get from seeking excitement or validation. Quiet discipline, on the other hand, it's silent, it's unseen, and crucially, it is completely dopamine independent. Real discipline actually begins the exact moment your motivation dies. The most disciplined people out there have literally trained their brains to act even when that dopamine rush is nowhere to be found. Moving right along to number two, rewiring for automaticity, moving from feelings to systems. So this is the first major psychological concept that explains how highly successful people actually operate day in and day out. The secret sauce is automaticity. This is when your habits run on total autopilot. You completely bypass the need for emotional readiness. You don't wake up and ask yourself if you feel like doing the work today. You just do it. Your brain has been completely rewired for pure consistency, taking action regardless of whatever mood you happen to be in. The shift between these two states is absolutely crucial. Think about it. When you wake up and ask, do I feel like doing this today? You are instantly trapped in survival mode. You're just reacting to your current mood. And let's face it, our moods fluctuate wildly based on a million different things. But truly disciplined people, they remove that question from the equation entirely. And by doing that, they shift their brain into cold, calculated reasoning mode. In reasoning mode, logic and planning dictate your actions, not some fleeting emotion. Which brings us to number three, mastering implementation intentions, the non-negotiable habit. So how do we actually practically make that shift? Well, psychologists use this brilliant tool called an implementation intention. It is a fixed plan that turns your action into a non-negotiable habit. The true beauty of an implementation intention is that it instantly stops you from negotiating with your own emotions. You don't have to convince yourself to get to work, because that decision, it's already been made ahead of time by your past self. Feelings are completely removed from the whole shebang. The mindset shift here really boils down to this one thought. It's not, should I do it? But rather, it's time, so I do it. That is the exact mental pivot required to make your success look totally effortless to everyone on the outside. There's no internal debate, no lying there weighing the pros and cons of staying in bed. It's time, so the action just happens. Period. Let's look at number four, the power of pausing and the mental gap. Now look, we're human. Urges and distractions are still going to happen, which is exactly why you need a specific trait called cognitive inhibition. When a temptation or an emotional impulse hits, extremely high IQ people don't just react instantly. They create a mental gap. It's a brief pause that allows them to mentally zoom out and rationally evaluate the consequences before they decide how to respond. This one trait stops impulsive choices dead in their tracks and replaces them with intelligent, calculated ones. Let's actually walk through these micro moments together really deliberately. First, the temptation or the impulse hits you out of nowhere. Second, you enforce the mental gap, a 3-second pause. just like that. And in that silence, you move to step 3, logical evaluation. This incredibly simple gap changes the entire outcome of your day. It is literally the dividing line between who you are right now and who you want to be. And finally, number 5, the science of silence, execution over validation. So why must this brand of discipline feel so unsettling and so silent to the outside world? Well, psychology reveals a really fascinating and honestly kind of annoying trap. When you talk too much about your goals, like announcing to your friends you're finally going to start a business, your brain actually tricks you into feeling like you've already achieved them. It's wild. That premature feeling of achievement completely kills your drive to do the actual hard work. It drains the exact mental energy you desperately need for execution. You have to pierce right through that social media illusion. By moving in total silence, you preserve your vital mental energy. You have to stop training your brain for likes, for external validation, for clapping emojis from strangers on the internet, and start training it purely for results. And this quiet execution is directly tied to mastering delayed gratification. It's simply the ability to look at your brain and say, not now, later. When you resist instant comfort, whether that's grabbing junk food, hitting the snooze button, or just mindlessly scrolling to work toward a long-term goal, you aren't just being a good person. You are literally strengthening your executive function. This is the exact same brain system used for deep planning, complex reasoning, and real-world problem solving. Ultimately, when you can successfully implement these mental gaps, when you can rely on rock-solid systems instead of fleeting feelings, and when you can delay that instant gratification, you achieve something really profound. You don't just control your schedule, you take ultimate control of yourself. Which brings us to my request for you today. Actually, don't even subscribe yet. Instead, I want you to close this explainer right now. Go find one single area in your life where you've been relying on motivation and replace it today with a fixed, non-negotiable system. Prove to yourself that you can execute even when you really don't feel like it. And hey, if you succeed, then come back and hit that subscribe button. Because real discipline doesn't speak, it just shows up. So the only question left to ask yourself right now is, what are you going to do with your next 3 seconds of silence?